Guys, welcome back. On this episode of The Desert Road, we're bringing you a 2022 Tesla Model 3. And the question we have for our viewers today, is this still a relevant car in the electric car world in 2022? Let's find out, take it for a drive. Let's go. All right, guys, welcome back to the Desert Road. Today, we're in one of the most awesome electric cars on the road. It's the Tesla Model 3. It's vastly popular. I've never driven one before, and we're taking it for a drive. We're gonna talk about pros, cons, exterior, interior, and just generally take you for a ride around Scottsdale, Arizona in this. So follow me along as we discuss all that this car has to offer. Let's go. All right, initial impressions. This car has been unchanged as well for the last 5 years. So it's the same Model 3 shape and design. The back even has the carbon fiber spoiler. It's dry carbon, so it's matte finish on there. I'm overall a fan. The only angle that is not my favorite angle on this car is the head-on straight from the front. It looks a little bit like a cyborg or some sort of an alien ship, but overall it doesn't bother me. I think it looks rather good. Moving on to the interior. The steering wheel is nice and small. It has a nice premium feel to it. The seats, as you can see in this car, it comes with the white leather interior. The contrast in here is actually quite great between the blacks and the white of the interior. This is not real leather. It's some fake pleather that Tesla uses of sorts. It is comfortable. It doesn't feel like the real thing, but it will hold up well, and it looks good. Overall, these seats are very comfortable and supportive. All the controls and everything in this car is obviously through the screen, from the AC controls to adjusting how the car drives, how the acceleration is. You can put it into chill mode. So all the controls are accessible through here. The AC in here blows nice and cold. It's all adjustable through the screen. One of the best parts of an electric car is you can pre-warm or pre-cool this car no matter where it's parked, whether it's at your garage or at work. You have a phone app that controls all of that, which I find very, very fantastic, especially if you have kids or you live in a cold or a very hot climate. You definitely know how useful some of these features can be on here. The stereo in here is fairly great for entry-level Tesla. It sounds great from quiet to loud. I have no complaints with it at all. I do like the fact that Tesla gives us dual mobile phone chargers in a great location. It's situated right there. Also speaking to the quality of the materials and all the ingredients putting this car together, everything feels fairly premium. There is obviously a lot of plastics in here and fake leather, but nothing feels cheap. Everything in here seems like it's put together fairly well. I know there have been complaints of new Teslas coming off the model line and you know, some stitching is off or panels are mismatched. Overall, I think this is as good of a job on here as any other entry-level premium car can give you. And being in here for the day, I haven't found any mismatch or any loose stitching or anything I have complaints about on the inside of the car. One of the things I personally dislike, I don't know if this comes with All the Model 3s are just the ones with the light interior. It has this light headliner here. I'm personally a fan of the darker ones. This roof right here, it doesn't have a shade on here. It is partially tinted, it's just glass. I don't like that, especially for Arizona. I almost feel like I would add more layers of tint to get this roof to darken up a little bit more. And I also did want to bring this up. Again, it's a certain little pet peeve of mine, but this car has 0 grab handles anywhere in here, either the front or the back. It's just a little minor annoyance. I like having something like that to hold on to, but it's not a big deal. One of the other things I like here is because this car has no engine, it's got extra storage space. So it's got storage space up front where you can fit potentially maybe a laptop bag, maybe a small carry-on. The back trunk is definitely very, very spacious. I like that. For a car this size, it feels extremely spacious in this car. So I do like the fact of how roomy and airy this car feels. Probably partially in part due to the large panoramic moonroof in this car. The back seat space is fairly adequate. It does get tight, especially if you have a longer driver or passenger sitting here. So the rear room does get fairly tight quickly. The rear seats are comfortable. If there's a taller person sitting back there, due to the sloping shape of the back, their head could be bumping into the glass back there. Again, if you have children or something like that, or people on the shorter side, it's not going to be an issue at all. All right, let's talk about the drive of this car. This is my first impression. I've never driven a Model 3. I've driven a Model Y before. My initial impressions is that this car drives better and smoother than a Model Y. Let's take a minute to talk about the acceleration of this. First of all, this is the performance dual motor version. So this is the faster one out of the ones you can get. Tesla, in the recent year or two, introduced the rear wheel drive version that's slightly slower with only a single motor. This thing definitely is the faster option of the bunch, and it hauls ass. The speed on this is absolutely fantastic. It glues you to the seat. I mean, there's not much that it takes, and this thing turns into an absolute rocket. Honestly, that's probably one of the biggest pros for me in an electric car. This thing just hauls like a rocket ship as soon as you lay down the gas pedal. Whew. Whew. It almost, you know, knocks your socks off in how fast something like this can be. It's very unsuspecting, and this will probably stay with some of the best of all supercars in the recent decade. It truly is phenomenal. Okay, the ride. You certainly do feel the bumps and bruises off the road on these 20-inch wheels. If I was getting one for myself, I don't know if I would take a step down and get the 19-inch wheels just to smooth out the ride quite a bit. For a car of this nature, you would almost expect a smoother road rolling. It is on the stiffer side. It almost feels like many of the sports cars I have driven. The ride on this is very tight and very taut. It's almost never, I mean, especially from my point of view, it's never a very relaxing drive. It kind of keeps you, you know, on the edge. Everything from the steering to the gas input, everything is very, very sensitive to input. It would borderline on a very sporty drive, and this could easily pass for a sports sedan in any other automotive segment or brand. It drives like a more upscale car, like a more premium car. There is really no econo box feels in this whatsoever. This is on par, I would say, to other German automakers. This doesn't really drive like an American car, like some other American counterparts that you would get used to, with plush suspensions, a much softer ride. So it's one thing I didn't expect. I expected a more buttery and a smoother ride overall. But if you are looking for just a tighter, sportier drive, this Model 3 definitely delivers. One thing I don't like, and it does take some getting used to, the regenerative braking in this car is pretty crazy. So literally, you got to keep your foot down on the gas pedal to maintain a consistent speed. So the second you let go, it slows down quite drastically. So it takes a little maneuvering to figure out how to modulate that gas pedal to keep this car rolling very smoothly. It actually is starting to make me quite nauseous as soon as you start modulating that gas pedal quite a little bit. And I think to some people, it takes a learning curve to get used to driving an electric car such as this. The more I'm driving it, the more I'm coming to enjoy the absence of information right in front of your direct view. There's really nothing hindering your view out the window, and you get a nice view out of almost all the windows. The only downside is, due to the shape of the car, there is quite a big blind spot looking over the shoulder. So because of that sloping design back and the way that rear seat is over there, it does block your view quite substantially. Luckily, on almost anything such as turns and backing up, there's tons of cameras all around the car that give you a really good visibility of anything that's going on around this. Yeah, and one of the things I was really interested in finding out is how close is this to an actual ICE car? Like, does this give you the feelings of a car, or does it feel like purely like almost like a gadget or an electronic of sorts? My conclusion is it's somewhere in between. The thing that hits you hardest the most is just how insanely quiet this is. So everything from the actual driving to being parked at lights to startup, there is the absence of noise that you typically hear in almost all traditional cars. That's a really pleasant surprise. It does make the drive and the overall ambience of this Tesla very serene and chill, and I quite come to enjoy that feeling of this car. All right, guys, we're gonna go through some of the likes in this Tesla Model 3. My number one like is definitely the acceleration. This thing is a rocket ship. It hauls ass in from almost any speed, and it never lets up. Number two, I like the overall quietness of this. So whether you're standing, whether you're driving, you're at a light, the lack of engine noise to me is actually a pro in here, especially for a daily driver. And number three, my third like in here is definitely the minimalist interior. I like kind of the absence of a whole bunch of gadgets and buttons and all this. Everything is integrated into the screen, and Tesla did a pretty great job in making it all fairly easy to use and right at your disposal. So kudos to Tesla for doing that. Okay, moving on to the dislikes. My number one dislike is the unavailability to turn off that regenerative braking. So I know Teslas or maybe other models of it have it on their model. This one does not, and I certainly feel like that would be a great plus to this car. My number two dislike is the lack of features in this car. So one would be a heads-up display, right? Number two, it doesn't have blind spot indicators on this on the mirrors. You do have some information about that through this information display, but when you're glancing in the mirror and you're trying to make a turn, it's not obvious if there's a car next to you or not. And the last feature that this is missing is the 360 camera. I'm surprised Tesla didn't put that in, considering how many cameras are all around the car. Okay, and then my number three dislike, it's that almost absolutely everything is now controlled through the screen, including the AC controls, including even locking of the car. I mean, almost anything you can think of doing is now in the screen, but it does take some getting used to, and especially not having the availability of physical buttons for some of the things you're used to doing in other cars with a single touch. All right, guys, I hope you enjoy taking this tour with us of this 2022 Model 3. It was a fun day spent in this car. I enjoy it. I could see myself driving an electric car or even a Model 3. This offers so much. We hope to do more electric car reviews on this channel. Until next time on the Desert Road.